It's like Nixon on steroids. Christopher Wylie, 28-year-old whistleblower, on how the shadowy data firm Cambridge Analytica used fraudulently obtained information from Facebook to launch a psyops campaign targeting 50 million American voters. Nixon on steroids, indeed. In 1972, the 37th president's dirty tricksters got caught in the Watergate with some Radio Shack-style gizmos and some badly applied duct tape trying to bug the Democratic Party's headquarters so they could try to steal the words of one man, party chief Larry O'Brien. That act, and the various cover-ups and sleazy maneuvers that surrounded it, cost Richard Nixon his presidency. In 2016, Donald Trump's presidential campaign paid roughly $6 million to a firm founded by a hedge fund billionaire supporter that used 21st-century technology, subterfuge and out-and-out fraud to essentially steal the thoughts of 50 million Americans, quite possibly you, or your friends and neighbors, to launch a psyops campaign against voters, to put Trump in the White House. In other words, multiply Watergate to at least the 10th power. You might have heard this weekend that Facebook, from whom the data was obtained and where much of the ensuing psychological warfare took place in the summer and fall of 2016, has now banned the firm, Cambridge Analytica. It was not a bold move by Mark Zuckerberg's social media behemoth but a cowardly one, taken just minutes before some stellar reporting by The Guardian's Carol Cadwalader and journalists from The New York Times jointly exposed the hijacking of the data and, arguably, the theft of an American presidential election. Facebook's too little too late action was the ultimate closing of the barn door after the horse has already bolted, the horse being American democracy. The basics of the story are this: in 2013-14, the young firm called Cambridge Analytica had backing from the right-wing billionaire, Robert Mercer, a rising political force in its association with the Breitbart News impresario Steve Bannon, a bold mission to, in the words of one former employee, fight a culture war in America, and a scheme to use state-of-the-art big data and psychological profiling to win elections with modern propaganda. What CA lacked, however, was the data that pulled this off. That's when what Facebook's top lawyer has now acknowledged was a scam and a fraud came into play. Wylie, the young political data maven now turned whistleblower, and the team assembled by Mercer and Bannon turned to experts in psychometrics at Britain's Cambridge University. They're a Russian-American. Hey, a bit more on that later. Professor named Alexander Kogan was hired for $800,000. Kogan reportedly then lied to Facebook about his real project, a personality quiz and an app that 270,000 people consented to but which allowed the firm to pull Facebook, likes, and other personal info from 50 million unsuspecting Americans. The company also seems to have lied to Facebook about later destroying the data. According to the newspapers, Cambridge Analytica ultimately created about 30 million usable profiles for voters, who were then targeted in the 2016 election with the kind of psychological warfare that the Pentagon has honed for decades to use on our enemies. In 2016, the enemy was us. Indeed, Wylie noted that Cambridge Analytica emerged from a defense contractor called SCL and what it began to market in the mid-2000s was cyber warfare for elections. The Mercer and Bannon-backed CA was initially hired to work for GOP-SEN Ted Cruz in 2016, Mercer's initial horse in the race, but the team had switched by summer 2016 to party nominee Trump, which then paid the firm about $6 million. What does political cyber warfare look like? As you might imagine, pretty ugly. In an election where most voters' preferences are deeply rooted, a campaign like the one engineered by Cambridge Analytica tried to tap into the psychology of the voters who could most easily be peeled away from Trump's opponent Hillary Clinton, young people who might be convinced to vote third party, or blacks who'd been enthusiastic about Barack Obama but could be discouraged from showing up in 2016. Data seemingly as trivial as what sneakers or candy bars you like helped develop profiles of the persuadable. So-called dark posts reminded African American voters about Clinton's infamous 1990s comment about young blacks whom she labeled super predators, while in specific neighborhoods like Miami's Little Haiti there were messages linking the Clinton Foundation to post-earthquake problems in Haiti. It's impossible to know how well these dark posts worked, but the objectives were certainly achieved. A recent major study by her team of political scientists found that whopping 4 million 2012 Obama voters, many of them non-whites, sat out 2012 and many others voted for third-party candidates like Jill Stein of the Green Party, which is what Team Trump and their hired guns at CA wanted them to do. At Trump's post-election rally in Hershey in December 2016, the then-president-elect bluntly noted that blacks didn't come out, so thank you to the African American community.